What's up, everybody? It's Friday night, and you know what that means. The Skeptical Help Bar is open. This is the only live stream in the entire planet that's thoroughly endorsed by Captain Jack Sparrow. I guarantee it. Not really. But I'm sure if he was real, he would love it because I drink a lot of rum. Anyway, hey, Bob, how you doing? It's good to see everybody. Good to see people filing in. So this Friday, this show, we have a guest, and it's a returning guest. I think it's my first returning guest, which is awesome because that means people actually do like coming here and talking. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But first, I totally have to go over the rules. And the rules are important, so I'm going to go over them. Number one is you are welcome to ask any kind of paranormal related question that you want, anyone that your heart desires. And I will give you my skeptical opinion in return. And tonight, my guest will also give her skeptical opinion or believer opinion or just opinion. We'll see. Rule number two is I don't know everything. If you guys are fans of the show, if you're regulars, you know I don't know everything. I mean, that's just plain and simple. But I am not afraid to look it up. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. And if we do look it up, we'll learn something together, which is great. That's one of the important things of this show. Rule number three is listen to Patrick Swayze and be nice until it's not time to be nice. Anyway, that means don't be a dick in the chat room. You know, have a debate, conversations. That's great. I love that kind of stuff. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Just don't be mean. Any name calling, you're out of here. And we still have just one person that has ever been booted from this show. Just one. Rule number four is if you have a question for me or the guest or both of us, please do me a favor and put a Q or the word question in front of your comment. And that way it's much easier for us, or at least for me, to go through the comments and see the questions and get to them. And rule number five is drink up. So sound off, let me know who's here and what you're drinking, and we're going to have some fun. I'm going to just jump right in and bring our guest on. We're gonna talk to Beth Darlington from Access Paranormal, and please do me a favor and give her a big hello and hi and whatever, because it is very, very late, or actually early in the morning where she is in London. So I'm really happy that she's here. I'm gonna bring her on, and let me see. Boom, there she is. Hello.
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 From the other side of the pond.
The other side of the pond. What time is it there?
It's just gone 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, 2 o'clock. Okay. So we're going to keep drinking and push through the next couple hours. And I'm sure as we get into our discussions, you'll get motivated and invigorated and be like, yes, I'm going to be so wide awake and buzzed.
That's right. I've got some special concoction in here. Get the brain going.
Yes, I have a little. Oh, this is actually, I don't know if you ever had this, Captain Morgan, orange vanilla.
Ooh, that sounds very tropical. Getting into spring now, are we?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's coming around. It's kind of like if you've ever had an orange creamsicle. That's exactly what it tastes like.
Liquid
Yummy.
form.
I know. And it makes you happy. All right. So tonight's topic is actually based on one of your blog posts, a recent one that you put up called Why We Need to Acknowledge People Can Be Paranormal Experts. And I read it and I posted it in the comments. Let me see if I think I can actually post it in the comments here too. Yes, I can. So it'll go into the chat room so people can read it if they want to. Make sure you open a different window. Don't leave the show. And then you can see what we're talking about. But I read it and I was like, oh, okay, there's things on this blog that I agree with and I don't agree with. And I did comment. I did post a comment, and I saw you sent me a list of other people's comments. Which seem to go back and forth. You're so excited. You're like, yep. They seem to go back and forth between people that, again, agree and disagree. So before we dive into the meat of it, if anyone in the chat room doesn't know who you are, could you give us a brief description of Who is Beth Darlington?
A female, made from my parents. Okay, so jokes aside.
Wow.
Yes.
We went really far back.
Captain Obvious there, yes. No, so basically, I'm born in Australia. I've got a dual citizenship, so I can I can live here in the UK as well as in Australia as well. So that's why I'm here. So some people are like, why are you there? Is this illegal? Like, no, it's fine. It's okay. I grew up in Australia most of my life. I originally was here about 12 years ago, and that's when I started to really get into the paranormal. I've always had an interest in it. And I know it sounds really cliche, but like, I've always been interested in it. It's like, but I have always been interested in the possibility of an afterlife, and the possibility of how some objects can maybe move on their own when they can't, or how people can know information from other people. And when I was living here previously, I did the whole working traveling thing for like 2 years, and I started to go to some paranormal events and got involved in investigating, and loved the fact that you can actually be more hands-on as opposed to just kind of reading a bit about it and just being interested in it.
Right.
And when I got back to Australia, I thought, yeah, it's going to be the same. It's going to be awesome. I'll be able to get stuck into it the same way. And nope. By that point, there was nothing. There were ghost tours and history tours, but there was never nothing that was interactive paranormal investigating in there, sitting in there, finding out your own answers, all the experience stuff that a lot of people really get stuck into and find, let's face it, quite addictive, to be brutal. But there was nothing like that. I'm like, well, hang on, I've just gone from Prada, as we say, to nada. And that's what it was like. And I thought, I want to create a website just for Australia at that time for people to find out where they can do this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I started Access Paranormal, which is my website, and also my company back in Australia, and it just grew from there. I got Access Paranormal from Access Hollywood, by the way, so it's not completely slightly tweaked, but it was, and I've really enjoyed the fact that it's kind of grown from there. So it's not just been a website to know what's happening, but also for online learning, because being in Australia, there was beautiful institutes and places and people to learn from. But, obviously location-based, you're on the other side of the world away from it all. So online learning became quite a passion for me for paranormal investigating. So I've based it pretty much strongly on that particular avenue, and I've rolled out all sorts of things like email courses and all sorts of stuff, and obviously events as well, which I love too. I think I miss networking. COVID has really taken that out from under me, and I'm like, hit me up, man. I miss it. I really miss it, particularly the last 12 months. So. I hopefully soon, which will be in the UK here soon in the next couple of months, things will slowly start to open up again. But yeah, it really is that sort of stuff. I've thrown myself into it. I've learned from lovely institutions like the Rhine Institute as well, the School of Parapsychology here, member of ASIP, member of SPR here as well. So I've really, since moving back here almost a year and a half ago now, can you believe it'd be that long? I've just got involved in it as much as I can again. And as much as one can in the last 12 months. But yeah, it's been a great journey. And again, it's it's either there or it's not. You love this particular topic, regardless of what happens, how it happens, pandemic or not, it's still there, and the fascination is still there. So, and I've been rolling out all sorts of content and ideas, and I just love it. Like we're here, talking with you, it's getting people to think outside the box a little bit, like what's methods, ideas, techniques, how can we look at things a little bit differently, because that keeps things fresh as opposed to kind of all the one that holds a K2 and then goes to a couple of events. That's cool, that's what you want, fine. And there's beautiful academic people of another level, that's great, and there's that whole research side, but there's this middle area that's where I feel I sit. And that's why I love hanging around and generating ideas and training for. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's a big nutshell.
Thank you.
I like how you said that you're kind of in the middle. You straddle the fence there, and I get it, and it's a passion too, because I mean I'm definitely on the skeptical side. People should figure that out, especially by the name, like above my head here. But it's still a passion. I still enjoy this. I mean, even though we're in a pandemic and we can't go out, because a lot of the places around here too in the States have been shut down. So ghost hunts or pay to play ghost hunts, or even the conferences have all been done. Like there hasn't been any. But I'm still keeping up. I'm still doing 2 shows a week on this topic. I'm still putting out articles. I'm still investigating things because I still have that passion. So there are ways around it. And I keep up to date on what people are doing and what people are saying, because you have to. I mean, yeah, going to conferences is a great way to do that, because it's almost one-stop shopping. You can go to all these tables with different groups and see what they're doing, see what they're promoting, see what they're putting out there. And now you can't do it. Now you have to go around and search online and find their Facebook pages and Twitter pages, stuff like that. And then we have people that have blogs. I have a blog too. I mean, and we put out content. And I do keep up. I subscribe to you, and I get your updates when it comes out. What?
You poor thing.
Oh, please. It's nice. It's nice to get different perspectives. I mean, it's very nice. The show that I do on Saturday nights tomorrow with Dave and Tim is beautiful, because it's 3 of us, and we all come to the table with different perspectives and different ideas, which I love. I love that. I think that creates the atmosphere for ideas and for thinking outside the box. Because you're constantly challenged. Because the 2 guys, Dave and Tim, do not let me get away with shit. You know, it's not like I can just say something and, think it goes over their heads and we just go along. No, either one of them or both of them will stop and be like, what do you mean by that? Which I love. I love that. I love getting challenged. So tonight's topic is about paranormal experts and what makes it. Like your blog post was titled, "Why We Need to Acknowledge People Can Be Paranormal Experts." And I think I changed it for the show and said, "What makes a paranormal expert?" But it's kind of along the same thing. So can you give us like a brief idea about what your blog was about and what this means about acknowledging people as paranormal experts?
Yeah, certainly. In the blog post, because obviously a lot of people in the paranormal community, literally, if you say paranormal expert, will cringe, and I completely understand why. It's almost like, it's like nails down a blackboard, or drinking lemon juice. It's the same face. It's the same thing, and I completely understand. It's a term that we shy away from generally. Because it can be really something that can be from a place of ego. I think a lot of people see it from that perspective. I can, again, completely understand. My point more so is the fact that maybe it's a term that could be given to somebody as opposed to something that you call yourself. Also, at the same time, I think there needs to be acknowledgement of the work that other people do actually in the field of interest. There are people that I've also put in my blog that I mentioned specifically, saying these people aren't exactly just your, I'm not saying run of the mill, but they've been around. Like there's Lloyd from the Rhine Institute, and here in the UK, and these people, these individuals have had years of research of teaching the topic, who have academic qualifications. And I think also acknowledging people who have actually got what you can see down and out experience in it as well. So, why shouldn't individuals not be celebrated, I guess, in some way, or acknowledged on some level for the work that they've done, even if it's, and again, a lot of people, and we'll obviously talk about this at some point, is saying, you can't do that because, it's a topic that hasn't been proven. It's like, well, then again, your argument, I think, is a little bit wobbly there too, because there are some areas of even science that hasn't been officially proven, but there's enough information there for it to study and to learn from. So I think that angle is a little bit, as I said, shaky on its legs by using that as a way. So we can't call someone an expert. You can call someone still an expert of an area of interest and also from experience as well. But again, it's something I feel is bestowed upon a person. Like I would, say I call Kenny a skeptical expert, but Kenny, guess what, everybody? I'm an expert. Ha ha. I think there are ways in which the term should be used, and I understand because a lot of it there are very many people out there in the paranormal community who like to think they're experts, but pretty much aren't. And again, it's a very much down to opinion in that way. And another point was made as well, where someone had said, and I agree too. It's like in media, when being interviewed, people like obviously outside of the community will actually go, "Oh, you're a paranormal expert," and you're like, it's like, sort of Dracula with sunlight. You're like, it's like, so it's that kind of thing as well. So yeah, I do believe there is this scope. There should be scope. We shouldn't shy away from it. I think a little bit of his imposter syndrome as well, and we can't, don't just suddenly feel like, because no, I can't say that because I don't know enough about the area of interest and blah blah. No, I think there are people that should deserve it, and they're the ones that actually have been around and doing this for a long time, and there should be some recognition for it. I think we should, as for me as a community, like start to embrace little terms like that. Yeah, we're not regulated, absolutely, and there's reasons for why. I can totally get that. But you can still be an expert in an area of interest. And I don't think that's something we should be walking away from or totally shooting down in flames, as we say.
So I'm with you on most of this. I really am. I think the problem comes in, and I want to say that I also totally agree with the cringing part. Like, I hear expert whenever somebody refers to me as an expert. I hate that. I really do, because I don't feel that way. I really don't. I know a lot of stuff, but when you break it down, I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about everything. And I think I may look like I know a lot, and that's because when you ask me a question, it's usually online. You can't see me. And in that 2 minutes before I respond, I'm Googling. And I'm looking it up going, oh, wait, yeah. Or I'm looking at one of my books, and giving a reference. So it's not actually me that's smart or an expert. It's other people. But I think at the base of this, and there's so much that we can talk about. I love, this is a great topic. I think the word paranormal is part of the problem, because paranormal is not a field. It's a definition of something. And I have the definition because I noticed you put definitions of expert and professional in your blog, so I looked them up too. So paranormal is most of the definitions are basically the same, and it's not scientifically explainable. What else I have? Impossible to explain by known natural forces or by science. All the things that are impossible to explain by known natural forces or by science. So this is like a blanket term. So when you think about paranormal expert, like that immediately brings to mind like, oh, you must know everything about every single topic in that. As in like, I guess I would say the analogy of like a medical expert. Not every person in the medical field is an expert on every topic. Like you have specialists in every area that some specialists can't do what other specialists can do because they don't have the training or the knowledge. So I don't know if I'm coming across correctly, but that's how I feel it is. So when I hear paranormal, I love how you're like, yep.
I'm nodding my head off as like,
yep. You can tell you've been on camera a lot because you're making sure like, yep, you can see that yeah. I guess paranormal is the term that throws me off because it's what is a paranormal expert? And
it's interesting that you make that point, because a lot of people, when I put this, majority of the people saying, well, actually, no. And the believers, as you say, or the side where people do consider themselves paranormal investigators, actually leaning to saying, well, I see what you're saying, Beth, but you cannot be a paranormal expert because it's such a broad area of interest. It's like you're going to be an expert in ufology, in mediumship, in NDEs, in all this, and it's like you can't be an expert in all of it because if you're using that term paranormal expert, that's what you're actually implying. But I loved the comment from Dr. Cal Cooper, and it was this way, like, and I think it was the last comment I think I sent through to you, and it was just, and he goes through the definitions to say, no, this can actually be something, and that's something, an acknowledgement, and it was a very beautiful and long comment as well, but it should explain his stance and how it can actually be that way. You can be an expert in a broad sense, even for something that's not been scientifically proven still at this point in time. And again, we have to always respect that. But you can, because I think you said, you can be an expert in immunology, but we're not really sure still yet exactly how the body works when it comes to certain cancer treatments and things like that. But, just because it's that, like immunology can be all sorts of different parts of that particular area. I mean, so maybe some would look at that as being very more specific than the paranormal as well. And of course, something that's a little bit more scientifically proven, but there's some of the parts of that particular field that we don't know about. And it can be so broad because it's all branches of different areas. You can still be considered an expert in that area. So why not something that they consider what they say is paranormal?
So I guess my argument there would be that at least when you're talking about a field in science, so like you're in healthcare or something, whatever you're into, chemistry, biology, there is a body of work there that you can train on, you can be tested on, you can examine, that can be retested and thoroughly looked at, even though it's not an entire look at that field, because there's still a lot to yet to be discovered or understood. There is a bulk of information there. And when we look at paranormal, again, like we have to break that down into like different sections of, say, ghost hunting. But like that's the most, when you say paranormal, like at least for me, my mind immediately goes to ghost hunting or that kind of stuff, ghosts, spirits, demons, stuff like that, and UFOs, and then Bigfoot and stuff like that. But the body of knowledge in those, and I don't like calling them fields. That's just personal preference. But the body of knowledge for those hobbies are mostly made up. There's very little to back up and substantiate that knowledge. So, at least in my personal observations over the years, it's been, this is what we think, and we got nothing to back it up. So I guess that would be my difference in those two. Like in the medical field, I have a lot of stuff I can fall back on with my own work. I can fall back on my textbooks, which are backed up by tests and studies and exams and all that stuff. Whereas the stuff with paranormal, if people say that this place is haunted, what do we have to show for it? Yeah, you can show readings, but we haven't established that there's readings yet that mean anything. So I guess, and I know anybody's watching, it's not that we're arguing.
Oh no, we don't know that.
I love this.
We're so down low with that. We're cool.
Keep drinking.
And I see what you mean with that. But my angle in that is that I totally agree with the whole. When people say field of science, I try to avoid that like the plague, or I should say I avoid it like COVID. I say field of interest. I've been saying that for a while. I call it a field of interest because it's not a science for starters. So when I say the field, the community say, I generally try and make it field of interest. So again, I actually agree with you. But when it comes to being an expert in something, you can be an expert in an area of interest. I guess that's where my different opinion is. You can. I mean, there are, as much as I do not understand feng shui, I think it's a load of baloney. Believe it.
I'm right there with you, sister.
Sounding Judge Judy over here, load of baloney, sir. It is completely a load of baloney, sir.
Was that your American accent?
It is terrible, terrible. Don't get me to do it again. I will never be invited back.
Do it again.
No, I can't, because I've just insulted the whole of the US by trying to attempt to do that.
Oh, I thought it was funny.
People can be considered or feel they're an expert in feng shui. And again, there's nothing to back it up, but people can be an expert in feng shui because it's the knowledge of it, it's the experience of it. The thing is, though, where it becomes grey area, and I think you might also agree, is when it's like, okay, so you've got knowledge and experience, but what can you back it up with? Education. Where's your line of education with that? You can be an expert in something, but expert, I would also think, would mean some level of education or proof of that education in some way, and that's where it starts to become quite grey, obviously, in this within the paranormal investigating, because there isn't anything that's formulated or accredited enough for somebody to actually have that formal qualification. So again, then the people I've mentioned in the blog that have started this fantastic talk, I believe definitely, well, most of them do have their own academic qualifications anyway, and quite active too, not just like for 1 year and then beating their own social media drum and then going, right, I'm an expert. Like, oh, I roll from here to the next dimension, No.
So like that's a good segue into that question, because I was thinking that too. Like, I do agree that there are experts that are in this field of interest, hobby, what have you. And it's good. It's not an expert in the paranormal. It's expert in their fields, what they're good at. And like, I noticed the people on your list here, and do you mind if I read them off?
Yeah, by all means, that's what's sent through.
And correct me if I mispronounce some of these names, but Dr. Karen O'Keefe.
Oh, Kieran O'Keefe, yes.
Professor Carolyn Watt,
yes.
Steve Parsons, Lloyd Auerbach. So yes, I would agree that these guys or these people are experts, but I wouldn't say that they were experts in paranormal. I would say that they're experts in psychology, forensic parapsychology. I would say that's for O'Keefe. I made notes. I printed out your blog. Made notes.
Oh, damn. Don't do your research. What are you doing?
I know. I have notes here, and here. See, I prepared for this. But then, like, even let's see. Oh crap, I lost my place. Professor Watt. She has a degree in psychology and parapsychology. So yes, I would say that she's an expert in those fields and bringing that to the table. Same with Lloyd or Steve Parsons. He has a background in engineering and medicine. And Lloyd Auerbach, parapsychologist. I mean, well, we pretty much most people in the States know him from that. But I would argue that they are experts in those fields. And that's what they bring to the table. Like, I have expertise, I would say, in photography, especially with figuring out how photographs are made or hoaxed or accidentally created, which I would say most of the time they're accidentally created. So I have expertise in that. I still won't call myself an expert, but that's what I bring to the table. I still don't think I'm a paranormal expert. So that's when I read it, I was like, oh, well, yeah, they're experts. I don't think they're paranormal experts, though. Go ahead. What do you got?
Oh, it's like my mind's going tick, 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 tick.
You're thinking it. I love it.
No, don't tell anybody I'm thinking. But as I said, I see your point, and that's been a big comment. A lot of comments came back from when I posted, because I just posted it because I think there was a talk that another particular program, another particular group had done a live stream saying, oh, there's no such thing as paranormal experts. I'm like, wait, let's just hold it back here a little bit. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to post my link to my blog and, see what other people think. And it went off its bits and pieces. I was going to say something else, but I'll be very restrained at the moment. Went off its.
It's okay. This is a bar. You can say whatever you want.
No, don't be saying that. We'll be banned off Facebook. It got viral, as they say, and not COVID viral, but literally viral, and lots of comments, as we know, and obviously I sent them through. Again, I think it's paranormal. I think is still a term that can and will, to me, is something that could be used or should be used as well, because it's such an umbrella term. So say for instance, parapsychology. There obviously there's part of the paranormal psychology. Obviously, a lot of say for instance, Kieran O'Keefe. He is a psychologist, of course, and people say you can be part of parapsychology, but a lot of it is a psychologist with a branch of parapsychology. Obviously, you can't be just a full parapsychologist because it's obviously not enough for the study for it to be there to call yourself that. So you can be a psychologist with experience in paranormal experiences, or sort of in learning of paranormal experiences. But to me, it's paranormal, and I guess we're kind of really, and I love it because we're peeling back the layers here. For me, it seems to be about interpretation as well. So I think having paranormal as an umbrella term for all these different topics, I think is something that could be done and should be done at this point, in a sense, because it covers all the topics. So, for instance, for you, it's like, you could, be a skeptical expert because you have a specialty in, knowing with photography that feeds into your skeptical umbrella, as you could say, and other parts like your research and all different parts that make you, but on the umbrella term, instead of having to go, I'm an expert in photography, in blah, blah, blah. You know what? I'm a skeptical expert. There's my umbrella, man. Here.
It sounds so weird to me. Like, I've never heard that term before, like skeptical expert. I don't know. I guess for me, when it's self-titled, when you give it to yourself, that's pretty ballsy. That's very vain.
Oh yeah. That's I think that's when you realize it's about intent also. I think with work like that. That's the other thing too, which I wish I'd actually addressed in the actual blog itself, but it really is down to intent. You said to go, I'm an Aussie expert because I came from Australia. It's like, really? Seriously? Like, you're right. It is down, definitely, and that's why I think a lot of people in the paranormal community really hesitate and struggle with using anything of that says you should be awarded on some level or acknowledged. I think is the best way of the work that you've done or something that the research you've put forward. I guess, and then of course there's the people that are actually doing the work that don't really care about how they're being referred; they're just doing it anyway. So again, it's down to intent, but I still think there should be some acknowledgement for those who like the Lloyds, like the Curans, who actually put something to and have moved forward and educate from an academic background and are actually trying and moving something forward, moving through and giving a level base for us to learn and for the rest of us, but for other people such as myself to actually learn from. And I think it's I guess a barrier to break through. It's almost like, well, no, okay, so we're not regulated, but we shouldn't let people not be celebrated for what they've done and what they're doing still continually. They should be acknowledged, and I think that's where that comes from. But yeah, a lot of people.
I think that's a. There's a couple questions I want to get to, but like this is fresh in my mind, so I want to address this. I agree that people that do, and I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. I think people that do good work should definitely be acknowledged, and I think there should be a distinction there because so many people do shitty work, like really bad work, and I wouldn't even call it work sometimes, and to cast a small blanket out there, a lot of the ghost hunting teams that I interact with don't do good work. It's TV style, cookie cutter bullshit that doesn't produce results, but many of them are the same way, where they have that self-entitlement kind of thing where they wear their matching bowling shirts, black shirts with their photographer's vest with the pockets are bulging out with gadgets that they don't even know what works. And then they have this air of authority. And when you talk to them, they don't know what they're doing. And it's embarrassing sometimes. So I guess that's another part of this expert thing is not only do people call themselves experts, but is the quality of work there? Is the quality there? Because if it's not, then they don't deserve any kind of recognition, except don't go to them. Like I would encourage people, do not read their work. Ghost adventures. Don't watch their TV shows. Don't do anything. If you want to respond to that, that's cool. If not, we can get to the commercial or the questions. But what do you think?
I definitely agree. Again, it's we say expert, but it's the quality of work, not necessarily the quantity. Again, but who is the determinator of that? You know what I mean? It's sort of like, as you say, your example of certain groups that will, that they kind of move towards, what happens on TV, and then sort of like, that's what they're going to do, and that's the methods they're going to use. It's probably not something they're considered expert. That's why I specifically mentioned the individuals I did, because I wanted to make it clear that I think, there are people there that actually, those people that I've mentioned, from what I've seen and the work that they've produced, don't actually follow through from what actually has been on TV, and they've actually progressed the field of interest further.
Right.
So,
This is great. I love this. Like, as we're talking, I keep looking down, but I'm writing notes down.
Oh no, that's okay. Oh no, that's okay. I can see you're ignoring me. It's fine. No,
whatever. You're saying things that I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I want to get back to that. So
that's good. It's multitasking. I'm a female. I get it.
Oh my god.
Yes, I pulled the Eastern card out. I pulled it out.
We're all equals. Damn it. No cards work here. No get out of free jail or jail free cards work here.
Blow that shit away.
Yeah. That stopped as soon as you entered the bar. So first question here is from Eric Harrison. He says, for Kenny, have you seen something that you couldn't explain as far as being in the medical field, such as someone who recovered from something that defies explanation? No, I have not. I've never seen like a miraculous healing or a sudden like something that I'm like, oh my God, that could never happen. I've never seen that. And I've been in and out. I've been in all parts. I've been an emergency medical technician. I was on with rescue. And then I work in hospitals now. A lot of stuff behind the scenes, but no, I've never seen anything like that. I wouldn't mind. I mean, that'd be pretty cool, but no, I have not seen that. Have you, Beth?
No. As far as being medical field, as who's recovered from something that no, I've seen people on a paranormal investigation or a person become quite overwhelmed and their behaviour changed quite considerably. And I knew of this person previously only for a year or two beforehand. So, I mean, you only know as much as you know of the people that investigate. Generally, you should not investigate. If you're in a team, you get to know each other a bit as well. I've seen that happen, but from an actual, recovered from something that defies explanation. Apparently when people do get overwhelmed by spirit, and I use that term loosely, of course, they're obviously that the persona changes, they change, they're not themselves. When they get taken out of a particular location where it's happening, they seem to snap out of it. They actually, most of the time, I've seen, if it's apparently a true spirit overtake, if you want to call it that, they will actually be ill. Because apparently it's energy transference, which is too quickly for the body to deal with. That's what I've been told. But apparently they are outside.
Sorry, I don't know if you know the rule here, but anytime somebody says energy, we have to drink.
Oh yes,
it's a buzzword here.
I love it. Energy.
Oh no. Open the bottle.
Bottoms up, people.
I've seen similar situations where people, and to be nice about it, I've seen different aspects of it. I've seen people that looked genuinely affected by something, and I honestly don't know if it was environmental, psychological, or something else, because testing was not allowed. Obviously, I didn't have equipment to, treat anyone, but it's usually the simple cases like nausea, headache, dizziness, disorientation sometimes. And most of the time that I found, it is environmental, gas leak or afraid of heights or just up too late, staying up like 12, 14 hours past your bedtime is, can have an effect on a person. But I've also seen the other side of that coin where it's people that make a dramatic scene, and when they don't think anyone's looking, I've seen people like do that, like eyes roll around, make sure somebody's watching them, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm still sick. Oh my goodness, take me out of here." And I mean, I have no problem calling those people out right away because I think it's just silly. But besides that, no, I have never seen anything that in the medical field that does that. Let's see. We got another question from Bob. Let's see. Bob says, do you have to have degrees in something in order to be considered an expert, though? I do not have a degree in educational technology, but I am typically seen as an expert in education tech. This is a good one. I had notes about this, and I did want to bring that up. So go ahead. You go first.
It's to me, it is a grey area. I think obviously having a degree in a particular area that you would be, if someone would consider you being an expert in, obviously gives you a lot more weight. But then again, there are people that don't. I know there's when I've attended a Society of Psychical Research events, and particularly obviously in the last year online, they're actually now starting to broaden the view of the fact that people can be considered knowledgeable and expert without actually having an academic background and or having a degree. I think they're starting to embrace and bring people on who actually have decades of research but may not actually have a degree but in that particular field of interest, but still should be acknowledged. So I think that's a valid point. So I think, again, it's a grey area. I think it's up to an individual interpretation of that person's work. But generally, I think I would say you don't have to, but obviously having a degree would help. At least it shows that. I don't have a degree in anything. I do have qualifications. I've got a Cert 4 in qualifications, which in Australia, which means for training and development and assessment. But I don't have a degree in anything. So again, I wouldn't call myself an expert either. So I think it's a bit grey in that way. But I think that, definitely if someone doesn't have a degree, then if you're wanting to look at somebody as an expert or look at their background, which I think you should always do if you've got to actually look at learning from anybody instead of just jumping in with into hot water, you should always be able to look at what their background and proof what that person actually knows, what they know of. But if they've got the actual experience, I think, they can still be considered a paranormal expert. I know that makes you cringe, but I'm going to say it. Oh, no. Your microphone. Your microphone. Dude, I think your microphone's off.
Yeah, that was me. I coughed. While you were talking, I coughed.
Oh, damn, I shouldn't have said anything because then I would have gone, so okay. It doesn't really matter now.
So what I started saying is that I agree with you on this because there's always been that balance. Yes, having a degree is great for a lot of areas. I have a degree in gas and diesel automotive technology. So I used to work on cars and trucks. So yes, I went to school. I got a degree in that. But I don't have a degree or certification in photography, but I have experience, and experience is something that's relevant. It really is, depending on how it's used. So like if I love this analogy that I just popped into my head. If you've ever seen the film My Cousin Vinny, have you ever seen that?
I don't think I have, but I know of.
Oh my goodness! All right, so it's a great film. I suggest you watch it. It's dated, but it's a great analogy to this because it's about a court case. Two young kids are accused of murder. Their cousin Vinny comes in to help because he's got a law degree, and he comes in to help. And in the course of the trial, and it's a comedy, so keep that in mind. But during the course of the trial, the the one side, oh my God, prosecutor. That's what I'm trying to think of. Prosecutor brings in an automotive expert, and he's got like all these certifications and blah, blah, blah. And then on the other side, Vinny calls his fiance, who does not have a degree, but she goes into the long thing to establish her credentials is that her father was a mechanic, her brother was a mechanic, her grandfather was a mechanic, and she learned all this. And the point is, like, for mechanics, auto mechanics, that's the way it goes a lot, where like their father and their grandfather work at it, and this person, the son or daughter, learned in the garage, and they worked on cars for years and years and years. Yes, I would consider them an expert because they know what they're talking about. They can fix it, but they don't need a degree. So I think it goes back and forth between having some kind of academic degree or having the relevant experience, and that's important. Relevant experience. Do I think you could be considered paranormal expert because you go on a ghost hunt and sit in the dark for 3 hours, like every other weekend or every weekend? No, I don't. I don't think you do, because I do that every night. I sit in a room in the dark for 3 or 4 hours. So I don't consider that, relevant experience. I think that's just following what you see on TV and mimicking, and you're not actually learning anything. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting where people will consider themselves experts because they've done that, and it may not even come from a place of it may come from a place of just not having the right knowledge about the fact that that's not what it's about. Like originally, when people will jump into this, think that's what I see on TV, so that's what I'm going to. That's what I think is. I see these people as experts, so now I'm considered an expert, and we know no. It's entertainment. It's fun. It's thrill seeking. I totally get it, and I've been there before, and that's why I don't mind doing what I call public and historical locations, because I call it the paranormal playground. You get to just kind of have a free for all. Really, it's sort of like you just get to try stuff out and do different things, and sort of have a great evening. It's about the experience. It's not about helping or solving or actually investigating at all. So I get that, but people then think that that's what they could maybe considered an expert if using that method or behaving in that way or using experiencing that. All that means it makes me a paranormal expert. Like, ooh.
I like how you brought that up, like the behavior. If you mimic the behavior, I guess it would bring ego into it, where you kind of think, okay, well, I've done exactly what they did on TV, and I was at the same place, so I did it all, and I got the same results, and I think I'm an expert now. So yes, I know and then you officially buy your photographer's vest, and you can stand there at your booth with your arms on your hip and do the rock star pose for your profile picture. Yeah.
And look grumpy. Look bald with a cap and black and grumpy.
But yeah, I definitely think that has something to do with it. And we see it. And I mean, as much as I hate busting on what I am, it's usually your white male dominant that is like that big badass type that think they know everything. And not that I do. I want to make that clear. I don't know everything. It's in my rules for the show. I don't know everything. But I am always willing to learn or willing to be schooled. Like, you can totally tell me, hey, you're wrong, as long as you have something to back it up and you can teach me. And if you teach me, like, great, I'm your best friend now. I mean, I love it. I love that stuff. But yeah, you see a lot of these self-styled experts that come out and they think they know it all. And especially when you challenge them. Oh my goodness.
Wow. And that's when you know the intent of the person, with the fact that they would term themselves. Firstly, they're terming themselves an expert. Again, for me, I think it's something that you would give to somebody or you would explain about somebody. But to me, I think to call yourself that, I think that's where it starts to come. It blurs from actually having the experience to actually being about ego. But again, another way to test that water is actually questioning that person. If they start to become quite flustered, you're putting yourself out there on a platform and calling yourself an expert, and you're getting flustered about being questioned, then you really need to think about how much of an expert you truly are. Because as you said, if you've got the facts to back yourself up, if you know your information, you can stand on your own 2 feet, then you as an expert, and I believe most experts, and particularly the people that I mentioned in my blog, they could talk about their and back information like that, because they've got the confidence, they know their information inside, they live and breathe it, they actually have the experience and the knowledge. So again, I think it's almost like an acid test, really, if you to question if somebody sort of flusters a bit. Like you said, I'm all about learning. I think that's where we kind of brain a bit. It's like, like this particular topic already, and just the posting of the blog, I mean, it actually has opened my mind up to the fact that, people can be considered experts in certain areas. I still have a broader opinion of expert in paranormal as in all different areas, but I totally respect and see, actually, you know what? You can be an expert not just in the paranormal, but in aspects of the paranormal field of interest. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm learning too, and that's what it's about. Like, I post that blog out there not to go, guess what, everybody, I wrote something, have a read. Like, you know, I'm actually going to want to know what people think of it afterwards and broaden my own knowledge. And then, of course, I can grow from there. And that's, again, not considering myself an expert in any way, but it's a healthy way, an approach, an intent when it comes to learning and somebody who wants to continue to move forward, as opposed to somebody who wants to make themselves look amazing on their Facebook page. So.
Oh, we know a lot of people like that. Oh man, I like how you said that though. How you described that you put this blog out, and I saw this firsthand, that you don't take offense to it. You don't take offense to comments or disagreements. And I think that's commendable first, because it's nice that you can put something out there. This is your opinion, and that's what a blog is. It's your opinion about something. You put it out there, and like you said, you can't be afraid to take criticism. You have to have thick skin first and foremost, but you can't be afraid not only to take criticism, but to stop and think and consider, like, all right, maybe that point is better than what I thought. Maybe I do need to rethink this. And that's the good thing about having discussions like this, like this right now, or on the blog, or even when I talk. There's plenty of people that I talk to online that's more private, where I'm like, hey, I have this idea. I'm not sure. What do you think about this? Tell me what it is. And I mean, a couple of my friends, the guys Tim and Dave that I do the other show with, I'm constantly bouncing stuff off of them, articles and stuff. Like, does this sound stupid? Am I covering stuff right? Did I say the wrong thing? You know, let me know before I put this out in the public. But even so, I still get feedback, and it's not something to get mad at. It's something to consider and think, all right, well, maybe, yeah, that's a good idea.
I funny, I have a filter in my mind whenever I post anything, and it could be a comment on someone's post, it could be a new post, it could be Twitter, it could be anything. And if there's a mentor in your field of interest that you highly respect, and before I post anything, I think of the mentor person that I have in my mind and go, what would they think when they read this?
That's a good idea.
And that's a kind of like a, what, because if they see this, more than likely will, because he follows me as well, which is lovely. You know, what would, and as Dr. Kieran O'Keefe's like, what would Kieran O'Keefe think if I posted this out? And it sounds like a bit like, oh, it's a bit weird and creepy, but it's actually a bit of a filter where it's like, how is this going to be received by somebody that I highly respect? Then I make sure that's a great way to be able to go, okay, is this going to be too much this way? Is it going to be too much this way? How have I written it? Mind you, as I said, there's a couple of grammatical errors in the blog post if anyone does read it. So apologies, I will go and fix those later. But there are little things that, you know, it's a great way to be able to kind of go, where's your intent with this? Are you you know, for somebody that who you admire from the work that they produce? You know, he's comes from a skeptical perspective, absolutely, and understands how much how we're built and how fear responses in the body can really, really change our experience when we're put in situations. I think it's so important to understand that as much as we can. So I think, okay, so if I'm going to post something, what would he think of this, or what would he think of that? And, okay, is it balanced enough for me to actually post out there? Or, you know, and again, I said that's been a thing that I do every now and then when I put something out, like, what, you know, it's like, you know, what would God do? You know, it's not quite like that, but you know, like, you're catching what I'm pitching, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You want to make sure, like, all right, am I going to look like an idiot, or am I doing it right? I mean, once in a while, more on a scale of aggressiveness, sometimes I show my wife, I'm like, hey, you know, I just typed all this up. What do you think? And sometimes she's like, yeah, don't send that. don't send it. And because it may come off overly aggressive. Sometimes I don't know when I'm being too blunt sometimes. And that's what I try to be. I try to be straightforward. I try to be polite, but straightforward. You know, I don't want, if you put up a statement where, like, oh, this picture is of a ghost, clear, precise, it's absolutely 100% a ghost. To me, you're saying that with a definite attitude. You're convinced. You're saying it as a statement of fact. Therefore, I'm going to post my response as a statement of fact, or just as aggressive and blunt. And sometimes that comes off as I'm a dick. So I try to get, I understand where you're coming from. You want to get a second opinion on what you're about to put out there in the public.
It's being wary of what you put out there as well, because and how you like you said, how you handle people. Like one of the comments from the blog, someone had said, Mandy, and I've known her from in Australia, and I've known her for years, known her and her family quite well. And she'd said, look, I'm putting my 2 cents in. I think if you were to call somebody a paranormal expert, I think you're opening up a can of worms. Essentially, it's going to cause divide within the paranormal community. And that's a big, wide-held belief. The fact that somebody would be considered a paranormal expert would actually make other people go, well, you can't do that. You've got no right to do that. We're all the same. We're all learning. You can't know everything. And about, like we said before, about a topic that hasn't actually doesn't exist. It's something that's so subjective. There's no background. There's no proof of the paranormal, so you can't be an expert at something that's not that hasn't been proven by science. But again, as I said, you can be an expert in an area of interest as well. I mean, there's theology and all this kind of stuff, and Socrates, and okay, so people can be experts in that, and yet our evidence based on certain topics like that is not flimsy, I wouldn't say, but it's you can be an expert in an area of interest, and there is a lot of fear within the paranormal community of anybody being considered an expert, because we're also so conscious of making sure we're all on the same level. Nobody can be more than the other, and that's why I specifically mentioned the people I did, because they definitely would be considered. I'm not saying it's sort of like the plebs, I guess you could say, because we've got to make sure we're all here. But at the end of the day, there still should be some recognition in time for people such as, definitely not for such as me, but people who actually got the background, actually have the expertise, actually have the experience, the proper experience, not sitting in a dark with a K2 going, hello. It's like it's got to be like, you got to be wanting something more. So yeah,
that's an interesting thing to look at too. Like, who determines what is good experience, what is good, what good qualifications are. I mean, qualifications are qualifications, and I think one of the things you have to realize that if someone has their doctorate in chemistry, that means they could be considered an expert in chemistry, but they're not an expert in physics. And I think there's a lot of confusion with that, because it's like, oh, we brought in, like a TV show or a ghost hunting group might say, we consulted a scientist. And my first question is always, a scientist in what? Like, what's their background in? What are their credentials? Because if you're talking about physics and you have a chemist or a biologist, that's a different field. That's not their field of study. So they're not an expert, as far as I know. And then it comes to other things like, I guess, the amount of experience that you have taking ghost hunters and paranormal investigators, because that's the grown-up term, is like when they come out and say, I've been doing this for 20 years. Okay, where's the quality of your work? How do we judge the quality of your work? If you've been doing it for 20 years, like, is that every day? Like, most of us do our jobs 5 or 6 days a week for 20 years. If you're doing something for one night a weekend, maybe every weekend, maybe every other weekend, maybe 1 weekend a month. Yeah, that's not 20 years worth of experience. I think you're exaggerating a little. So how do we determine that? Like, without the obvious choice is just asking.
Oh, I know, and I say, unless you've got the means to back it up, like where you can actually show and from a perspective of this is the work I've been working on, these are the studies I've been a part of, this is the research I've carried out, these are the experiments that I've done. Like, I mean, websites are the sort of 2021 version of a business card these days. So you can actually put a website with your information on there about this is backing up what I can do. But I agree with you. There are certain individuals within the paranormal community that say, I've been doing this for 40 years. And I'm like, well, you're 50. You've been doing this since you were like, how can you be doing it? Oh, no, I've been interested since I was 10. No, you've just said you've been doing this. You've got 40 years experience. So, and you're 50. So from the age of 10, you were actually writing and researching and going out into locations and actually, I'm like, hang on, what? Like, it's like, and that happens so often, and with all respect, and I love my peeps, man. But there are times where I literally get more grey hair than, like, like the pensioner down the end of the road. Like, it drives me mental. It's one of my pet hates where people will sit there and go, I've got 30 years worth of experience, and like they're 35 years old. Like, oh, I've been interested since I was the age of 5. That's great, awesome. But don't sit there and say you've got 35 years worth of experience and you're only 40 years old. Like, it just, you've really got. I know it's fussy. I know people think, man, like, there's starving children in Africa and you're worried about someone's terminology of experience. Like, honestly, where's your priorities? But it can really bug me sometimes where, people will sit there and use that as an excuse to make them look more experienced. When you peel it down, you're like, I can smell a fart and I don't like it.
I'm so going to use that. So anytime someone's just shoveling bullshit, I'm gonna be like, I smell a fart.
Exactly, because you can tell it's starting to lead towards the shit. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I'm smelling.
That's great. I love that. Oh my god, that caught me off guard. Love it.
It is a bar. We're in a bar, okay?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
We're good. But
all right. Before we get going anymore, it is time. It's halfway through. I'm going to play my commercial for everyone, and this is it's kind of a new commercial. It's 3 commercials, but no one's paying me, so it's just you'll see. It's about 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, so enjoy it. If you have to take a bathroom break, if you have to refill your cup, which I'm going to run down and do, then this is the time to do it. And I will meet you back here in about just under 2.5 minutes. All right, so let me see. All right, ready and go. Hey everyone, this is my store based on the theme of science and skepticism. It's here that you can find all kinds of shirts and hoodies, yoga pants, tote bags, the fanny packs I know you guys love, masks and pillows, all with science and skepticism as the theme. I even have hoodies for your pets. That's right, your dog or cat can wear one of these things. I also have a general store that sells more inspirational quotes or, drinking stuff, because I like that kind of thing. I also have a store set up for our 3 Tortured Souls podcast, which we do Saturday nights. You can find shirts and Tim Vickers' favorite drinking vessel, the mug. I also have a store tailored a little bit more towards my ghost hunting friends, Paranormal by I Am Kenny Biddle. These are shirts and quotes that are a little bit more on the ghost hunting side, especially this one, Translucent Perished Beings. Ghosts. That's my favorite. So if you're interested, head on over to teespring.com/stores/scientific skepticism by IAKB and check it out. Thanks.
Are you tortured by what you see and hear about the paranormal field? Join us as we critically examine and question paranormal claims, science, ghosts, demons, cryptids, UFOs, ghost hunting technology, and much more are all on the table for discussion. 3 Tortured Souls is a video podcast that streams live on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 Pacific. 3 Tortured Souls.
Bam! Look at that. Oh, perfect timing.
It's on.
That's awesome. I love that. Oh, all right. So let's see some of the comments. Again, if anyone's in the chat room, if you have a question for either of us, please put it in the chat room with a Q or the word question. Let's go with the Q. It's always easier. And hit us with some questions here. There's some comments here. Let's see. Brenda suggests keeping a log of each investigation you've done. Should be doing it anyway. I would totally say, yeah, you should be doing it regardless. Lots of notes. I always suggest taking a notebook and making notes of everything, like everything that you do. Times, people, clothing, equipment, activities, change of pace, like when you change rooms. Note everything. And then at the bottom of the page, I always initial it just out of practice. It's just something I've done for years. Learned it from a friend of mine, but initials it. That means that I know this was done. Everything was done here. I can confirm that everything was done. But yeah, I definitely keep a log. Let's see what else. Bob says, I haven't had an interest in astrophysics for 2 decades. I'm nowhere even close to being an expert. And one of the things I did notice, like on the blog that you wrote, you quoted somebody about how long it takes. Let me see, like 10,000 hours, I believe it was. Let me see, where is it? There it is. According to Malcolm Gladwell in his publication Outliers, to be considered an expert, you have to be deliberately practicing for 10,000 hours, or what is also about 10 years. So I would agree. I mean, actively practicing, and that means actually like doing it, not only just field work, but the education that goes with it. And 10,000 hours, like that sounded a little low to me. And I did the math, and it comes out to if you spend like 20 hours a week, I think for 10 years, that's pretty good. I think I do that. I think I do that anyway. I probably do like 20.
Are you an expert?
Oh my God, no. I would never say that. That makes me cringe. I don't know why. You know what? I'll tell you why. Like off the top of my head, when somebody calls me an expert, that makes me feel like I need to know everything. That no matter what you throw at me, I should have an answer for it. A very well-researched, articulated answer that's ready like that. And I'm not. I'm totally not like that. I'm constantly looking things up and refreshing. Even if I think I know things, before I go to say it, you might see me like, hold on a second. Look it up. Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. It was this. And even when I do this show, I mean, when I don't have a guest, it's 2 hours of open Q&A, and I'm nervous every time. Every time I sit in this chair, I'm like, what the hell are these people going to ask me tonight? No idea what's going to happen. But I think that's the excitement too for me to get into it. So we were talking, let's say we were touching on the subject before the break. We were talking about what determines like an expert, the quality of work. And somebody who said it, I think Tim said this: if you're doing something terrible for 20 years, it's still terrible. And I love that because it's true. It's true. A lot of the people that I deal with, and this is across the board because I've been able to do the ghost hunting thing, the Bigfoot hunting thing, and the UFO hunting thing, both with amateurs or like weekend warriors, and then the people that consider themselves sometimes experts that are out in the field. And I gotta say, like, a lot of the work that I see is really crap. It's horrible. So again, when it goes back to like the idea of what we were talking about, like when somebody says they've done it for 40 years and they're 35, like what kind of work are you considering good work? You know, like I think you mentioned if you're if you have an interest, if you've been reading books, if you read a book or you watched a TV program when you were 8 years old, like when I was 8, yes, I was sitting in front of the TV watching In Search Of and going, oh, this is great. But that doesn't mean that's when my experience started, because I've also watched episodes of Happy Days and MacGyver and what else? What else?
You're showing your age, man.
MASH. Yeah, I mean, I'm what I'm trying to get at is all this stuff when I was little, I used to sit in front of the TV and watch cartoons. Am I like an expert in Transformers or Gummy Bears?
That'd be cool.
Anybody remember them? I don't know. Am I the only one? But I guess that's where I'm getting at. Like the expertise or the experience is dramatically embellished when you talk about it. Especially, what do you think when people say, well, our team has a combined 167,000 years of experience?
Oh, again, it's like nails down the blackboard or eating a lemon kind of thing. It definitely grinds my gears a little bit in that way, because I know that it's good to particularly, again, it depends on what their reasons for saying that. So if it's on social media, they're going, our team has a combined experience of 45 years. I'm like, really? So each individual person has been doing this from of what age, and who just determines that? And also a part of me worries from a moral perspective, where somebody was a group was to say, we've got combined, experience of say 30 or 40 odd years to a client as well. So that it's almost like, okay, so they've got, but again, like, okay, experience or interest for starters. And then when you combine it makes it look bigger and better. It's like, well, where's your combined experience? I think, again, it's a gray area, something I avoid, like COVID. And, it is something that does bug me a little bit, because again, it's bad enough someone saying, not someone saying, but somebody who doesn't have the backup or have it written down or have it noted somewhere or have the research of actually having the proof of the experience and all the knowledge of having decades of experience to be considered somewhat of an expert. But then to actually then combine it in a team, well, then it just makes it worse. It's like, anyone could say it, and that's the thing is I often, when I give talks, I will say in the beginning of it, my name is Beth, I run Access Paranormal, I have 12 years of active investigating experience. And people go, active? I'm like, yeah, active, because you can have experience, great, but active experience is something completely separate. Right. So active experience. So again, these people may not have, individuals have active experience, but an interest. But then again, getting them together and saying, we've got 40 years of experience in our team. One person may have 20 and the other may have 3 or 4. It doesn't mean anything. So like, it's just, again, it's interpretation, and you want if someone's going to say, I've got this experience, then what backs that up with? That's why I've got on my website, on my About Me, I'm like, this is all the things I've done. This is all the events I've spoken at. These are all the talks I give. Like, this is the stuff that I speak about. This is the information I provide. It is my business card. And essentially, websites that can be free. So if anybody wants to, you should be somewhere for someone to actually look upon this particular information, if you're not as well known, to back up your claim. Like you said, like if we're investigators, you want evidence to back up the claims if you're going to put yourself out there. And I think, again, it's nails down the blackboard for me a bit with that. I kind of do the bit of like, the twitching when you haven't slept for a while. That kind of thing going on.
I'm right there with you, because my biggest issue is when like a group, you come up to a group and it's a big team, and again, they have their bowling shirts, they're matching bowling shirts, and they're like, yeah, we have a combined 50 years of experience, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, all right, there's 5 of you, like, do each of you have 10 years experience? Is that what you mean? Well, yeah, that means you have 10 years experience, not 50. You don't add them together. If it's only been 10 years, all of you had the same experiences because you're on the same team. So, no, it's not 50 years.
Exactly. And then you all start at the same time then? Because if you all got 10 years experience, you all start at the same time, right? So you all start investigating exactly the same time. Like you just, like with you, it's like you start to pick holes. You're like, hang on, oh, there's a Swiss cheese hole there. There's a Swiss cheese hole there. Like it's like, oh, I'll see this.
There you go, Bob. But if I get together with 45 people and we all have 1 year of experience, can we claim that we have 45 years combined experience? No, Bob, because you would claim that you have 46 years. Because if you with 45 other people, so there you go. See, that's my one good math thing. That's it. I'm horrible at math. That's it. But yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing that we see, and I just don't like it. Again, it's embellishing. It's making them look better than they are.
Yeah, and now I think that's why the general community is really shy away from the word expert, because people will say, well, my team's going to have combined experience of 50 years, and people are aware that that's a load of baloney. Yeah,
right.
You know, it's crap. And so then it kind of, people will then shy away from the possibility of even using the word expert. So,
right.
Or acknowledge, you know, people that actually do have the experience. So I think it's detrimental in that way too. It's like people are very aware that that's not something that is considered proof as such. But then again, I said, you know, people who do actually do the work should actually get the recognition.
I agree. And we both have our own, like I constantly refer to like Benjamin Radford, Joe Nickel, Sharon Hill, plenty of people that are out there that I consider experts and in their field, and I'll go to them. For me, like photography, I think I'm pretty good. I'm not sure. I think I'm pretty good at photography, but I'm not the best. And when I need help, there is a gentleman, Paul Michael Kane, that I continually go to because he's kind of like my mentor in this. I learned a lot from him. The guy worked for Lucasfilm. That's why I'm like totally into him. I'm a fanboy for him because he's done work for Star Wars, and we both have a love for Star Wars. But we can geek out. I can call him up, show him a photograph. I'm like, I'm not exactly sure. I think this, and we will geek out for like an hour just on that. And he's somebody that I would consider an expert, and he's also the kind of person that's like, I'm not, I'm good. I'm not an expert. He kind of feels weird with it. I think that's a common thread with most people that are really good at what they're doing.
That's it. And that's the irony of when I say, you know, people should be known as paranormal experts, or be at least given that title from a person instead of calling themselves, because the people that truly are paranormal experts actually would never call themselves that, not from a place like, oh, I don't believe I'm an expert because I don't have the experience. They're doing it for, it's all about intent. They're doing it for reasons not to be an expert. It's almost like they can't be themselves if they can't be doing what they're doing.
Right.
It's that kind of, it's their intent of where it is. So I think that those who call themselves experts are the ones to avoid, but I think the ones that we call experts are the ones to go to. That's how I kind of differentiate.
Cool. Well, while we're on the topic then, what do you look for to, I guess, tell the difference between what you would consider an expert and a non-expert?
Okay. Oh, what I would consider an expert, again, it's obviously, again, down to a personal interpretation. The people that I mentioned in the blog, definitely I would consider experts, and I've obviously listed, you know, summarized what qualifications they have, what research they have to back that up. They are very, very active still as well. It's not something they've done for a couple of years and just kind of like, I can't be bothered. I'll just go and, you know, move to the other side of the world like I did. Like, you know, they've got the background to it. They've got a qualification. I think that's to be considered. But then again, if they don't have a qualification, then what experience do they have to back that up? That to me would be somebody I would consider, and also someone who is positive about it. How can I put it? Say positive about it, but in a, again, I guess it's probably intent is what I'm trying to say. Like they want to be actually provide, like, you know, have a passion for it for the right reasons. It's not. You can tell. You can tell from afar when somebody's in it for social media likes and all sorts of stuff going on.
Right.
As opposed to somebody who actually wants to provide good content and information and move that out. So I think, again, it's down to personal interpretation. But for me, there has to be it would have to be somebody, again, those people I mentioned in the blog, but also there could be other individuals in time that I would probably look at and say, you know, I would consider that person a paranormal expert. But you're a run-of-the-mill person, who, again, like we mentioned before, has been doing this for 40 years and they're only 50, probably not, if that's what they're saying. Sure, all for having the interest in it, 100%. If you have an interest for that long, yeah, great. That means you've obviously been learning as you've gone from your journey. But to be an expert in it means, I think it's an extra level on top of that. It's not just actually having an interest or a hobby. It's almost a way of life.
Yeah,
that's
perfect.
Consider.
That's really good. I like that, because it's this has consumed me. This is my way of life, and I think it's yours too. I mean, I've seen how much you do, and I can see you're really busy, and then I know I'm busy. I'm constantly doing stuff when I'm not working the job that pays the bills, and I'm not spending time with family. Then this is what I do. This consumes me, and even when we do vacations or weekend trips, it's always part of the planning. Like, oh, well, this place says they're haunted. Let's try to go there, because that would be fun. and my wife usually rolls her eyes like, oh, great, here we go again. Yeah, a lot of these things, a lot of what you said, I totally agree with. I would also recommend looking at qualifications and/or experience. Look at the quality of the experience, and even the quality of the certifications or degrees, because that's something that's really important. Somebody did make a comment in the chat room about how I have a parapsychology degree, and I say degree because it's not a real degree. I got it online, same way some other let's say paranormal celebrities have gotten it, but they promoted, and the whole story with that is that somebody that was on TV promoted themselves as a parapsychologist, and when you looked into their background, found out that they had a degree that was from a diploma mill, so it wasn't real. They bought it. You pay for it online. You take your little tests, and you determine basically everything that happens, and you get a diploma that you print out. It's not real. I did the same thing. And I think it's important to establish that you have to verify qualifications. It's not being a stalker, even though pretty much that's what I am when I'm investigating people. I mean, aren't you? You're a professional stalker if you have to investigate somebody.
Yeah, that's true. And social media makes it easier.
Yeah. But look at their qualifications, verify them, make sure that they're real. Because somebody can say that. I can easily I could put a diploma behind me and say, oh, look, that's my parapsychology diploma. And I have a degree in that. And I guarantee most people that are watching it, that are casual observers, would be like, oh, shit, look at that. He did that. He knows what he's doing. And it could be just a piece of paper that I literally wrote parapsychology on it and hung it up, and you would never know. So it's important to verify that. Verify sources. There was an example. I know I'm talking a lot, but there was an example years ago, and a lot of people in the U.S. would know this person by the name of Roundtree. That's all I'll say. But this person claimed to be like a military. What was it? He had this long established military career. He was in the famous battles. He had medals, lots of medals. He had a PhD in physics and a whole bunch of stuff. And he traveled the country doing conferences based on these credentials. In an investigation that I was part of, I didn't lead it, but I was part of it. We uncovered that all of it was bullshit. He didn't have it. And that person has since disappeared. Well, not really, but gone off the grid and no longer does lectures and all that stuff, which is good because he was being fake. He was not an expert. He was presenting himself as such, but was definitely not. And that's something I definitely say look out for. And finally, Google. Google is your friend. It really is. It's a starting point, but you guys can look me up. You can look Beth up. Just Google us and you will find pretty much with me, you'll find a good balance of hate and not hate, because there's quite a few people that I've pissed off over the years, but you can see who I am. You know, there's nothing hidden. You can find out who we are and check up on us, which is what you should be able to do.
Absolutely.
There are 2 questions here I want to get to.
Cool.
Let's see. Paranormal Vantage Point with Bud Kelly. Hey, Bud. He says, question. Hi, Kenny and Beth. Amazing episode tonight. Would you guys think a great paranormal team would be a photographer, videographer, HVAC guy, electrician, psychologist? It's an idea I had years ago.
I do like the, having an HVAC as well as an electrical person, not just because, obviously it's environmental. So I think, when it comes to investigating, it's an inside job and an outside job is what I call it. So you've got to have somebody who knows what's happening inside. You've got to have people that know what happens outside. So if you've got people who specialize on the inside and the outside, it's good. So I'm liking the HVAC because I work in engineering and construction. So I know what that means. And also having a Sparky as well as a psychologist, I think is a good start as well. But photographer and videographer from a recording perspective, not necessarily a capturing perspective, I think is also good just so you can eliminate anomalies. But I think that's a good start. I reckon that would be a good start. What do you reckon, Mr. Beadle?
I think, it's a good start, but don't limit yourself to that. You're always going to look out for other experts. You're going to, now I'm using the term, damn it, Beth, this is your fault.
Sucked in.
I always consult other people, other professionals, experts in their fields. So you're never going to be able to have all the experts that you need. You're just not. It's impossible to do. But this is a good one because photographer, videographer, they're good. But I usually view investigations, depending on what's going on, it's a lot of data collection. So you're consuming data, you're collecting it, gathering it, depending on how you investigate. And I think we've talked about this before. There's the ghost hunting way, and then there's other ways where I only go in and look at claims that can be tested. I don't go in and just sit in the dark for 4 hours. That's a waste of time for me. So being a photographer, that would be good because I would already have photos that are being presented as ghosts or something weird. So I want to go in and say, all right, let's line this up and see what happened here. HVAC guy, absolutely. A home inspector would be awesome too. That would actually be, I would almost consider trading out a home inspector for maybe the HVAC and electrician guy, because home inspector would be able to look for more things all around. But yeah, electrician is good. HVAC is good because environmental conditions, electrical conditions, psychologist, absolutely. Behavioral patterns, the way people think, the way they're going to behave towards you, how they're going to react, how to proceed. Because I'm another topic of discussion is private residences, which I have an issue with, and going in there and a psychologist would be better equipped to deal with the owners / family going on rather than the majority of ghost hunting teams. I think they're better equipped with how they approach it, who they approach it with, how they phrase things, and then also being able to recommend further consultations, if you will, if needed. So definitely would go with that. But yeah, this is a good start, I think. I mean, the more expertise you can bring in from outside field, we can actually follow this up. There's another question, but I'm going to jump ahead to this one because that kind of follows what we're saying here. What other experts? So, as I said, like for me, and I'm just going to keep rolling, and then I'll pass it back off to you. HVAC is good. Electrician is good. Plumber would be good. Who else? Masonry, a carpenter. Again, that might fall under a home inspector type of person. What else? Animal control. That's something. I mean, I can't tell you how many houses I've been in where it pretty much sounds like there's a raccoon or mice or something in the walls, and having somebody that's in that field would be handy. Psychologist, definitely good. Anybody that's in the very, like, more in the data collection scientific field would be good, because they can teach you how to not only collect the data, but how to organize it and how to take notations, how to record everything, and a good proper way to record it. Not only record it, but also how frequently you have to record it. You know, like, how many times have I seen people take an EMF meeting in the beginning, and then maybe like an hour or two later, that's when they take another one? No, throw that shit out the window. You just wasted your night. Totally useless. So, all right, now I'm going to pass it back off to you if you have anything to add.
You've covered a lot of what I would think as well. And I think one of the comments came up, and as what I was also going to mention is, if you're actually investigating claims of someone with potential mediumship abilities, a magician would be, or actually getting in contact with your magician society in the area that you're in as well. You'd be surprised how open-minded they are about allowing you to come in. Obviously, they can't tell you all the tricks, because then, of course, that, you know, but at the end of the day, if you're wanting to actually say, look, I've seen this, I've experienced this person's displaying this, are there ways in which that can actually be done, sleight of hand, as you can imagine. So again, that's one of the first things I've also put up. But again, it depends on what kind of case you're dealing with. If you're investigating a location as opposed to a person, you know, obviously this is a person, investigation. A magician would be a great option. Another thing to add to the psychology side, I think somebody who deals with mental health or mental health issues, I think that's also as well. So if someone who's aware of initially as somebody who might be of a drug or an alcohol abuse or anything like that, or any type of abuse in that way. So obviously psychology is beautiful in that sense. It's a great big umbrella term, and would be great to have somebody you can actually refer to with these particular type of cases. But for me, I'm a mental health first aider, so and I encourage that highly. I've run mental health first aid courses, or co-hosted in Australia for investigators. So it wasn't just about obviously helping somebody who's having a mental health crisis, but also being aware and what it would look like if you go into someone's home and they're having an issue, or also for tour and people who run events. So someone could have an anxiety attack or a panic attack. How are you going to deal with that if you're somebody who doesn't have the background? So I think having that level of knowledge as well in your team, or somebody you can rely on that you can refer back to, say, look, this is what's happened, what's the best way to deal with somebody who's going through this as well. So it's not just always a finding about the phenomena. Of course, we totally do, because that's what we love and we geek about. There's also the big part when it comes to private residential cases. The only part should be is actually helping people as well. So from that angle, I think those magicians and people having mental health knowledge would be also a sort of advantage when it comes to literally to have a paranormal team together. Yeah,
that's great. I love that. I mean, shit, I should have thought a magician. I'm like, as soon as you said that, I'm like, son of a bitch.
I know you did the nod. No. I'm like, yeah, gotcha.
Oh, you got me. Oh, here we go. Shit talking.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean that's great. I agree, and there's so many other people. I mean, you'll find, like, as I do investigations, and when I say investigations, it doesn't always mean field work, as in going out to a location. Sometimes investigations means me sitting here for like 8 hours in a day and just going through it. But over the course of these investigations, you find that you reach out to more and more experts. Like I've reached out to theremin players. So theremin, the musical instrument that you don't touch, I've reached out to them because I needed to know about that kind of device, because REM pods are basically theremin devices. So I needed to know about those. And you just find, like, yeah, that's what I love about this field of interest. You have me hooked on that phrase now. Is because it takes you in so many different directions. You have no idea where you're going to end up when you start an investigation.
Absolutely.
Love it.
I mean, I remember I started with, there was one case where we, the group that I was with at the time, felt that because the family were Islamic, I had absolutely very little knowledge of Islamic religion. So again, we went to the actual Islamic community and spoke to them about what their, what happens, what's their beliefs when it comes to the afterlife and moving on and death and anything that comes back. And again, that like with you, it's like it's the rabbit warren. You kind of just go, oh, I'm going to go down this path and down this path, and you find your experts you can go back to.
Right.
Living in Australia, I had a lovely lady who I'm still in contact with, who's I'm actually able to speak about when it comes to Indigenous energy and the afterlife, because in Australia you will not find an Aboriginal person that will speak freely about their ancestors or those who have passed, because it's considered taboo. So those who investigate possible paranormal phenomena in Australia, and they think it might be an Indigenous case, which means it could be somebody of Indigenous energy left. Energy. I'm
God damn it!
Damn it. Yes, that's about.
I have to add more.
Wasted.
Oh my goodness! There has been some shows I can barely figure out where the buttons are to stop streaming.
Where am I? But it's another thing where they can actually, it's very rare to find someone who can actually speak of that.
Right.
It's a long time for, and some groups can be quite frustrated, the fact that they find it difficult to move forward on a case if they want to look at all different angles of that. So yeah, it can be challenging.
So another question we have, this actually might be a fun one. Carol says, but how hard is it to be a TV ghost hunting expert? It's almost all crap. So how hard is it to be an expert on crap?
I think they call it scatology, but I don't know. I think that's a technical term.
Yeah, you take this one first.
How hard is it to be a TV ghost hunting expert? Is almost all crap. So how hard to be an expert on crap? Again, it's likes and all, how you can work social media. Again, at the end of the day, it's the thing is though, it can also be very cutthroat as well. From what I've spoken to people over the years when I've gone to conventions, you can be hot 1 minute and you're nothing the next. And TV ratings, particularly in the US, there is a lot more cutthroat than it is in other parts of the world. So literally, if you're not rating anything within 3 episodes, that channel will cut the rest of the episodes. You've already had films like that. So if you're hot, you're hot. You're not. It is. You can only be a TV hunting expert, ghost hunting expert, a crap one, for a very short period of time, because literally the networks will cut you pretty quickly, and it is literally like a sausage factory. It's like bang, next one out. What have we got? Let's pull from anything. So. And again, it's not about the quality; it's definitely more so about ratings. But again, it falls back on, appealing to a general audience, and also gives us paranormal investigators a bit of a cringe-worthy. Like I think there was a particular program. I won't mention it. There was a particular program that was playing last night just before I went to bed, and then literally I hadn't seen a paranormal TV show for a little while, and it was just lots of interesting, colourful language coming out of me. I'm like, that would never happen. Okay, I got to go to bed. I'm going to stress too much. I'm just going to pop a vein here. It's like, just chill. So yeah, it's that's. I think it's you a crap TV ghost hunting expert for too long. That's for sure. They do like that.
So my experience has been that it goes back to checking people's credentials, because when I've seen some of these experts they bring on and they give them a title, when you actually look up some of these people, you realize, okay, they don't do that for a living. Some of them are just actors. Some of them have, or either like journalists where they just write the stories. Some are authors, but they actually have no background in the topic that they're talking about. And you have to remember, this is TV. It's for entertainment. It's not for scientific education. It's not an like an after school learning special. It's not. This is purely for entertainment. So half the people they stick on the TV with a title in the lower thirds, it's not their title, and you really should look it up. I mean, when I am forced to watch one of these shows, Like, I hate ghost hunting shows. I hate them all. Because I'm pretty much that guy that when they watch football and their team is losing and they're screaming at the TV, that's me with ghost hunting shows. Because I'm seriously like, the fuck are you thinking? That's not what you do. You don't do it that way. That's not what that's for. That's not how you hold it. No, I unfriend you. I unfriend you all. Like, I get so pissed off. But I usually watch it. Like if I have to review one of them, I'll sit there with my phone and just sit like, oh, what's their name? Let me look that up. Oh, what's their name? Oh, let me look that up. Oh, IMDb. Acting credits. They don't have this degree. They don't have the qualifications for that. So definitely have to watch for that. And also 2 other things is that one, most of them are given lines to say. They're told what to say or suggested. Hey, why don't you say that this way? Or just say it like this. This is a little bit better. And I've also seen where people are edited out of context. That's a big thing. There's actually a documentary coming out by Brian Dunning, who was a guest on this show. He does Skeptoid.com. But it's called Science Friction, and it's about scientists and skeptics that were on these kind of shows as experts and were completely misquoted. They were taken out of context, edited out of context, and I got to see a preview of it when I was in Vegas for SciCon. And holy shit, the way that they are taken out of context is not just like 1 or 2 words. It's like you say a huge paragraph and they take the first line and the last line and they cut the middle out and it completely changes what they say. Horrible. There's actually a sneak peek. I think I can say this, but Ben Rafford was able to record a phone conversation that he had while he gave an interview. He got permission to do it, and they play his recording next to what they played on the TV show, and you actually hear how much was cut out and how they rearranged his words, and it was like, holy shit, that's mind-boggling. So when you're talking about TV ghost hunting experts, you don't even know if they're an expert in anything, honestly. And I heard if you refuse to do something, then you get blackballed. So that's a big thing. That's why you'll never see me on TV. Because I'll be like, that's not a ghost. That was the camera guy. He stuck his hand in front of the camera. Didn't you see that? What do you mean I'm fired? All right, whatever. I'm going home. Where's my rum? Oh, man. Let me see. I'm going through some of these. We got another question from Carol. A historic restoration specialist would be good. An antique specialist. Yes, absolutely. You know, somebody that can ID antiques, tell us what they actually are. Perfect example. You guys know what this is?
Wine cabinet?
Some people call it a wine cabinet. Some people call it a Dybbuk box. But it's actually a mini bar. It's not a wine cabinet. It's a mini bar with all the original glassware in there.
Please steal my beating heart.
And yes, this is all rum, except for the clear one. This is vodka. But I mean,
it's probably all tea.
No, it's rum. But yeah, I mean, this has a reputation, at least over here in the States, as being famous and haunted and cursed and stuff like that. But if you talk to someone that's well-versed in antiques, they tell you, oh, that's a 1950s, late 1950s minibar. That's all it is. So, yeah. So, let's see. Let me see if there's anything else. No other questions here? Oh, that's good.
It was interesting when you talked about qualifications and people, and courses and checking up on someone's credentials when they sit there and tout themselves as a particular expert. One thing I find is another bugbear of mine, if I air my dirty laundry here on the Skeptics Bar,
I am your bartender. You can tell me anything.
That's it. There it is. It's all on the table. Is courses, like you said, that claim to be diplomas, but you can do them in 6 to 8 weeks. Or they say they're accredited. And for people who aren't familiar with a lot of education, how it's all set up with courses and all that kind of palaver, will think, well, it's accredited, which means if it's accredited diploma, it's a diploma. And they don't realize accreditation actually has nothing to do with the fact of that. It means the fact that it actually fits the criteria of a particular skills council, I guess you could say, as we call it back in Australia. That just means it fits a format of the way in which it's been produced and created. It doesn't actually mean anything more than that. It just fits a particular structure. It doesn't mean that it can actually be considered a diploma. I mean, how many universities do you go and do a diploma over 6 to 8 weeks?
Right.
So it's the hours, it's the time, it's the energy, and people are like, oh no, there's one particular organization that actually say you can do a parapsychology diploma in 6 to 8 weeks, and people go, oh, I've done it, and I see them posting it on social media, and it's like nails down the blackboard sort of thing. It's like, no, this is terrible, because then they go, but I've got a parapsychology degree. Like, you've done it in 6 weeks. There are people that do psychology for years and then do a branch of it when it is parapsychology. It's demeaning almost to the people that actually do have legitimate courses for their academic background.
Absolutely.
And yet I do not understand. It's false advertising, and it drives me mental. I don't know how these organizations and educational institutes get away with terming their courses as diplomas when they clearly they cannot be called a diploma. They don't have the background for it or means for it. And again, when you go to these websites, I'm like, okay, so who is awarding this? Again, who is awarding this diploma? Who's going to be marking my work if I was to do this course? I want to check their credentials. You can't check that. It just says it's an educational institution of blah blah. That's great, but who are the people behind it? I want to know who the tutors are and who's going to be doing it. So again, things to keep aware of when people say, "Oh, I'm an expert in this, and I've got a parapsychology degree that I did in 6 weeks." Well, I don't think so, Jimmy.
One of the things over here, like we in the States, we have our accreditation is government controlled. So you definitely go through a process and check up on this stuff to make sure that they really are accredited. And most of the websites that offer these diplomas that you're talking about usually have this little section in their FAQs that say, what is accreditation? Oh, well, it's this and this and this, but we have a religious kind of metaphysical accreditation, and it's usually through like a third party that has nothing to do with actual academic accreditation. It's basically it's someone like me sitting behind a website going, oh yeah, you're accredited, here's your certification, go with Cthulhu, whatever you want, go have fun. I bless you. But yeah, it's definitely something to go look out for, because that's important. I mean, that's so important. It's so easy. And I see, especially here, because in California, there is the Universal Life Church, which is something that you can easily get ordained. So when I attend some paranormal conferences here, I see a lot of people saying, yes, one of my credentials, I'm an ordained minister. Like, oh, really? From where? And once they say Universal Life Church, and I stop laughing, because it's like a reflex now. I'm like, I have one of those too. And I think like two episodes ago, I actually went through all the certificates that I have, where I signed up online for like 5 or 6 of them. And they're all framed, and I used to have them hanging up. They all give me rights and privileges of all kinds of clergy, but it doesn't mean shit. But look, I have six certificates that show that, like, I'm smart, I'm an expert in something. So definitely, as you said, check the credentials. Absolutely. All right. We are almost at the end. I'm finally going to let you go in a few minutes so you can go back to bed. What do you have? Do you have anything coming up? Any projects? Anything you want to announce? Yours.
There's a couple of projects I've got on the wings, but of course they're still being sort of sorted out as such. So I can't say too much about it as yet. But I'm going to be sort of a bit of a roving reporter on locations when things start to open up here for a particular very well-known publication here. So that's something, hopefully that will start to, the nuts and bolts of it, the details will start to come out from that soon. So do be prepared for that as well. I'm also going to be doing a lot more, I really miss events. I miss networking and all sorts of things like that. And that's my passion as well. So I'm going to be assisting a lot with that with a particular organization as well on the side. I've got a couple of blog posts I actually still have to write up. I'm going to eventually finish editing one of my latest podcasts, which has content from the last 2 years, but I've been so busy. Who gets busy in lockdown? I do as well. So there's going to be some content coming out, some really good meaty content coming out in all different places. And also me, again, travel, as most people know, is one of my favorite things as well. So traveling, paranormal, and networking is just my thing. So I'm going to be starting to branch out into those because I feel like I definitely missed out in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Being here, so there's definitely going to be a bit of that going on. But yes, stay tuned. There's going to be some different bits and pieces coming out of me. It
came out kind of weird. Stay tuned. There's going to be lots of bits and pieces coming out of me. Wow, you are.
As you do.
You're feeling good, aren't you?
Australia, mate. We have no filter.
I love it. I love it. Is that it? You got anything else? Or
yep, we're good to go, man.
Okay, good. All right, if you want to stick around, I just have a few announcements, and then we'll close out the show. So next week on the Skeptical Help Bar, I'm going to have Megan and Paige from the Spooky Science Sisters podcast, which is really fun. I'm looking forward to it. They're very giggly. They like to drink, and they use science. They both have a science background, and they like to dive into topics like ghosts and hauntings and disappearances and Bigfoot and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow night on Three Tortured Souls at 8 p.m. Eastern, me, Tim, and Dave will be, what are we talking about tomorrow? Oh, I think we're talking about EVPs, and I think we're going to have a bunch. This is Tim's job. We actually cycle through, the three of us, on who's hosting every week. And then they have to pick the topic. So I think we're doing something with EVPs. I'm not exactly sure, but tune in tomorrow for that. Let's see. What else do I have? I have a few things coming up where I'm making sure my phone actually stays on. March 18th, I'll be on a podcast called Crossroads, and it's a paranormal podcast. So we're going to be talking about ghosts and stuff like that. I'll probably be the token skeptic. April 15th, I'll be doing another radio show called Full Spectrum Radio. Looking forward to that. And then, depending on the condition of the quarantine and stuff like that, June 3rd to 5th, I'll be in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for Phenomenology. That's scheduled, and I'm supposed to have a booth there. So I'll have my Skeptical Help booth actually set up, the physical one that I have. It'll be set there, up there. I'll be taking donations for the Cancer Research Institute and answering your questions and taking your hate mail all at the same time. August 20th to 22nd, I'll be in Gettysburg again for the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, which is a good conference that actually benefits Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors and kids with cancer. So real good causes, and I'll be set up there too. And then lastly, September 25th is the Para-Unity Conference in New Jersey, somewhere in New Jersey, Woodbridge, New Jersey. So I'll be out there, not a booth. I'll be walking around just annoying people, doing what I do best, and having fun while I'm doing it. So after all that, I think we're done. Thank you again so much for staying up late and doing this and talking. And I'll certainly, if ever, I'll return the favor. I will stay up till like 3 a.m. for you because that seems to be what we do. Because it's fun. It is fun. I do enjoy talking to you. It's so much fun. We get to have such a civil conversation. It's refreshing.
Smell the intelligence.
You smell that fart, don't you? Oh, that's so much fun. All right. I'm going to set up my outro video here and just say to everybody, thanks again for spending your Friday night with us. Be safe, enjoy your weekend, and remember, never stop learning. See you next week.